Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, we're going to talk about Hazmat the Pervert, or Hazoret the Fervent, rather. This was the one that was hardest for me to build. I'm not going to lie. This guy, it took me longer than it normally does. It's just, it's hard. There isn't enough Hellbent stuff. There isn't enough discard stuff. And then even when you draw your discard stuff, you know, if you don't have any cards in hand, it does you no good. So anyway, I tried to do the best I could here. As of yet, I have not played this. I got the Cur Keep in here because we are substantially creature light, and this, poops out little blockers. So here's what I've got. Past in Flames is kind of, an obvious include because it does let you play things from your graveyard, and it has flashback. Now, I tried to do as much flashback as possible since we are going to be discarding cards. So that Past in Flames is what kind of led me down that road. Rolling Tremors, same way. It's a reusable Pyroclasm. That's fine. Hammer of Bogarden kind of opened me up to a few of the Phoenixes, or the Phoenix-like abilities, because the one beautiful thing about Hammer of Bogarden is it doesn't exile itself. So you get to repeatedly do this. You can, if you just need a discard outlet, you can repeatedly do it. Now, I have these in no particular order, obviously. Dangerous Wager. The very first card that was in the deck is kind of like Dangerous Wager. As soon as I saw Hazmat here, the first card that popped in my head was Null Brooch. Grafted Skullcap was another one, but I didn't use Grafted Skullcap because I just don't want to give that. Also I couldn't find one. There's that too. The Ore, doubling your land playing, and the fact that you get to speed up your card draw because we are not going to have a hand. It's just understood. We're just not going to have a hand. And pray to God somebody's not playing with a rack. Firebolt has flashback. Devil's Play has flashback. Now, Madness also kind of plays well with Hazmat. It works a little bit. The few Hellbent cards that are somewhat decent. Avacyn's Judgment has. Fool's Tome. Now, I really like Fool's Tome. 2 mana tap, drawing a card. This is an older card. Doesn't see a lot of play. But for this deck, it kind of works the purpose. These, what I call kind of split cards, the Aftermath cards, here again, trying them out. Mindstorm Crown from Mirrodin, or Morodin for some of you. Really like it because you're going to get to draw that extra card. You're not going to have a hand, so you don't have to worry about that. Of course, Hazmat's Monument. Into the Maw of Hell when you just absolutely positively got to kill a land and a dude. Hazmat's Favor. By Force is, wow, Shatterstorm is a thing, and it's a really good thing. Now, but I actually like By Force way more than Shatterstorm. You get to target, all your opponent's stuff. You get to leave your junk alone. By Force is the cheapest version of this card they've ever made. I love it. It's plain. It's simple. I would have loved for this actually to maybe someday we'll get a promo that has no flavor text because I love that one-line text in an empty box. I just think it looks cool. Ignorant Bliss. You can, if you have your hand, you can, hey, I don't have a hand this turn, and do your thing, and then you get the hand back. It beefs Hazmat because evidently that's what I'm winning with here. It's not Goblin War Drums, of course, keeps him from being blocked as easily. Volcanic Fallout can't be countered. I almost did not put in Reforge the Soul. I almost didn't because just that draw 7 cards, but I believe we're going to be able to play them or discard them fast enough to where it's not going to matter. And sometimes you just need that refill. You got to refill the tank. And that's the only reason why Reforge is in there. Seismic Assault turns every land you've got into a shock. So this might actually help a little bit. Library of Ling. Yeah, I know. Library of Ling is not in here for the no max hand size thing, because obviously that doesn't matter. Library of Ling is in here because it lets you choose to discard to the top of your library. That's the beautiful part about Library of Ling. Magma Mine. The reason why I've got Magma Mine in there is like I said, we don't have a whole lot of board presence with. We're just going to keep putting counters on it and keep putting counters on it until we just can mine somebody to death. Now, the Sisei's Ring and the Ruby Medallion, I'm using the Sisei's Ring. And believe it or not, all the Soul Rings are in use. I've got to acquire more Soul Rings. And yes, I'm still using Soul Ring. This is not Magic Online. I'll address that in a different. Pyromancy. Now, I'll admit, as I was flipping through the binders, what drew me to this was the Quentin Hoover autograph that I got from him years ago. But then I was like, wow, you can discard a card. I don't give a shit that it's random because, you know, I'm eventually planning on discarding my whole hand anyway. And they take some damage. Okay, sure, why not? Is this burning? Yeah, no. So the Eternal Flame here, let's see if we can get that glare off the damn casting cost. It does deal, I like, they haven't done this, and Eternal Flame is, you know, not a stellar card because it does half the damage to you. But, you know, we're in mono red. As long as you're dealing more than you're getting, you're kind of doing what you want to be doing anyway. And as far as hitting a player, that doesn't happen a whole lot. Normally you do this like Spitting Earth does to a creature or what have you. Now, Punishing Fire. Life gain is a thing. A lot of people do it. There's a lot of Soul Wardens and of their kind out there, and people gain life. I mean, that's just the way it is. And the ability to have a repeatable 2 damage for 3 mana is kind of nice. I mean, it outclasses. It can possibly outclass the hammer. The Phoenixes I was telling you about. I like that I tried to stay away from the Phoenixes that came back into play because I want them in my hand so that I can discard them again. That's the reason why there's not like Tribal Sphinxes or whatever. But, ooh, I haven't done Tribal Sphinxes. Okay, here again, different deck. But this way, it goes back to your hand so you can discard it again. And then this one actually, you know, does something when it dies. Now, Lupine Prototype is, I believe, and where is the damn Lupine Prototype? And its 2 mana cost is just, it's made for this deck, man. I mean, there. I can deal with that. Now, Ether Flash, like I said, we're not going to have a lot of creatures, so nobody else might as well either. Ether Flash is kind of a hose card against a lot of decks, man. Goblins and elves and Pegasus and soldiers and I mean, just a lot of stuff. Saprolings, your green players just automatically is searching for their Crows and Grip. Now, here's I want you to keep this in mind, all right? Because I love these 3 cards together. The first one we're going to talk about is Pyrohemia. This is a color-shifted Pestilence. Red mana, 1 damage to everything. Now, that 1 damage is also to you. That's why we're playing with the armor, so that you can dump all your mana in and kill everything, and you not take damage. But the problem with Pyrohemia is you have to have a creature in play. So, that's why, you know, the Stuffy Doll's in here. Now, granted, Stuffy Doll in multiplayer is best in a blue deck. I know that because once you kill somebody with it, you can bounce it and play it again, targeting another opponent or another player, and that's fine. But in this, you're only essentially getting one player. Now we got the Burning Anger. Hazmat does not have to be turned on to do this. That's what drew me to Burning Anger, is that you can just enchant Hazmat and he can just tap to deal 5. You ain't got to worry about blocking. Yeah, it's not commander damage or anything like that, but it's still tap to deal 5. Now the Flowstone Flood. Destroy target land, buy back, pay 3 life, discard a card at random. How beautiful is this? There are lots of dang lands that need destroying. People's Emiras, the Cradles, the Urborgs, the Homeward Path radically affects games. Maze of Ith has got to go. Just all kinds of stuff. And the ability to buy it back, to destroy land. Yes, it's 4 mana, it's a little high. But paying 3 life is kind of negligible. We're red. We're expecting to use our life as a resource. And the discarding a card is supposed to be the drawback, but it is in fact the upside to the deck. So and notice there's no mana cost in the buyback. So you can potentially play this card, I mean, as long as you've got the 4 mana to cast it, multiple times in a turn. Now, yes, if you are, you can pick on one person and just hose them out, but odds are that's not going to get you very far. Faithless Looting. Granite Grip. I hate to keep using Granite Grip, but it's just so good on an indestructible, hasty commander. So I had to. Fire Blast, another one I just personally like. Lachula. Now, you're reading the card right now because I had to read the card because she's a Spell Shaper, which means mana, discard effect. And this particular is, yes, you're discarding 2 cards. All of the original Spell Shapers, you discarded 1. The legendaries, you discarded 2, like her and Vegeta and so on. Now, it turns every card in your deck into half of a fireball, essentially. I love that it's creature or player. Lachula, she's going to get dead pretty quick. Now, Task Mage Assembly. Another one kind of similar to the Pyrohemia. It dies when there's nothing else. Now, 2 mana, 1 damage to a creature. Any player may play this. Now, that was way back in the Ristic days. Now, it looks like a downside. It really does. But let's face it, you don't have a lot of creatures, and your win con here, Hazmat, is indestructible, so you really don't care. It doesn't say players, so you can't target a player, but any player can play it. So if somebody else wants to spend their mana to kill somebody else's creature, I am down. Hellbent Creatures. Dragon Roost, because I put the Dragon Roost in there because I feel like there's going to be, as of yet, of course I haven't played this, but I feel like there's going to come a time where you're kind of stalled out and you don't have a hand and you're drawing blanks and you've got all this mana on this turn left over and you're like, Dragon. Sudden Impact and the Gaze, essentially the same card. Because if I don't have cards, you shouldn't have cards either. It's not that I'm making you discard, but there's always that one blue pair that's like, I'll play Enter the Infinite, and you're like, oh, really? Now, Bolivian Horde. Let's zoom in on Bolivian Horde here real quick because I want to tell you a little story about the Horde. Believe it or not, this showed up in alliances. And believe it or not, this was $15 to $20 back then. This was the first card that everybody said, this is the new Juzam Djinn. It's going to make Juzam not worth anything. And, that's evidently wrong. But y'all do a price check on the Bolivian Horde. This thing, I think the 2 sleeves it's in may be worth more than the actual card. But anyway, It's a fun card. It's 4 mana, 5/5. It lets us do our thing. Shard Phoenix, there again. Claws of Valakut, the same thing as the Granite Grip. Avaricious Dragon. This I like. It's a 4 mana, 4/4 flyer that lets you dump your hand and you get a personal Howling Mine. So, Squee. Squee is the man. The flavor behind him can some kind of get a little lost. I'll explain the flavor when we get to the Weatherlight Saga deck. But this is the ability for him to just keep, if you discard him, he keeps coming back. So you can keep discarding him to Hazmat to deal 2 damage to each opponent. It is perfect. Squee is the perfect, I guess, familiar for this particular god. Now, I'm running Inferno Titan because, let's face it, it's a good card. And I really, really like it. It comes into play in attacking Bolt. Anarchy, because it seems like, now I haven't read a lot of the Hazmat stories or any of the Amonkhet story. I've read like the first chapter or the first one, but this seems like something that, and I like the ability to just do some random chaos every now and then. Speaking of random chaos, Decree of Annihilation is a thing. This is my panic button. Because there are times when, now it exiles everything, so your god's not safe. And you're only going to do this in the absolute most dire of circumstances. I don't know that, I guess the circumstances could be right within this deck to cycle it and Geddon. But it seems like you'd want to spend 3 more mana and just eliminate all the threats that are killing you. Now, I'm dropping cards here. Mana Barbs. Yes, I'm playing with Mana Barbs because I'm about to go. My chicken nuggets are about done. The Urza's Armor keeps you from taking any damage at all because it's just 1-shot burst, and everybody else has to play around this. This is harsh. Now, you're not going to do it unless you've got the Urza's Armor in play, but let's face it, you might as well. And it ends game quickly. Maybe not in the upside for you, but it does end it quickly. And the last card I have is Bolivian Strip. I love the fact that you can activate this, and it's till end of turn. So if you've got, like, Bolivian Strip, by the way, this is not a Storm deck, but, oh my gosh, if you're just wanting to go off with a Storm deck, essentially this doubles the amount of mana accelerators, with your Rite of Flame and your Seething Song and all that jazz, and you could do it again and again and again, and they're each casted. But anyway, Bolivian Strip essentially gives all your stuff Swale Flashback. Well, that is what I have got for Mr. Hazmat, the pervert here, the Fervent. I do appreciate y'all watching. But right now, it's time to shuffle and cut some chicken nuggets.